The morning I stepped off the plane at Portland International Airport, the rain hit my face like a baptism I hadn't asked for. 10 years, a decade of my life spent in the gray corridors of London hospitals, first watching my baby sister fade from stage 4 lymphoma, then fighting my own battle with congestive heart failure. I was Thomas Anderson, co-founder of MedTech Solutions, a medical equipment distribution company I'd built from nothing with my college roommate Nathan Pierce. When I left for England in early 2014, we were doing $40 million a year. We'd just cracked $75 million, and I was flying high. I never imagined what I'd find when I came home. My daughter Claire was supposed to pick me up. 28 years old, sharp as a scalpel. She'd been our VP of operations before I left. But she wasn't at arrivals. Instead, there was a text. "Dad, we need to talk. Don't go to the house. Meet me at Powell's Books downtown. Trust me." My hands shook as I read it. Not from my medication this time. I caught a cab to the bookstore, my mind racing through possibilities. Claire met me in the rare book section, her eyes red-rimmed and puffy. When she saw me, she broke down completely. "Dad, I didn't know how to tell you," she whispered. "I tried calling so many times, but Nathan said you needed to focus on getting better. He said the stress would kill you." "What are you talking about?" I asked, pulling her into a hug. She felt so thin. "What happened?" She pulled back and looked at me with something I'd never seen in my daughter's eyes before. Shame. "I don't work at MedTech anymore. Nathan fired me 3 years ago. And Dad, he's living in our house. With Mom." The words didn't make sense. I processed them individually, but together they formed a picture my brain refused to accept. "What do you mean, with your mother?" "They've been together since you left. Maybe before. I don't know anymore." Claire's voice cracked. "He told the board you'd decided to stay in London permanently, that you were too sick to come back. He had papers, Dad. Documents with your signature saying he should take over as sole CEO. I felt my heart rate spike. My cardiologist's warnings echoed in my head, but I pushed them aside. I never signed anything like that. I know that now. But 3 years ago, when I questioned him, he had me removed from the building by security, called me unstable, said I was having a breakdown from stress. She laughed bitterly. Mom backed him up, said I was imagining things, that I needed help. They froze me out completely. My daughter had spent 3 years thinking she was crazy. 3 years while I was an ocean away, fighting to survive, believing my family and my company were safe. "Where are you living?" I asked. "I have a studio in Beaverton. I work as a medical sales rep now. Different company, obviously." She wiped her eyes. "I tried to tell you, Dad, but every time I called, Nathan or Mom said you were too weak to talk. They said the doctors ordered complete rest. I thought you didn't want to talk to me." The pieces started clicking into place. The calls that never came through. The emails that bounced back. The feeling of being cut off from my entire life, which I'd attributed to being seriously ill in a foreign country. "Take me to the house," I said. "Dad, I don't think—" "Take me to my house, Claire." 40 minutes later, we pulled up to the Craftsman I'd bought in the Pearl District back in 2005. My house. The one I'd paid off completely in 2012. But the cars in the driveway weren't mine. A new Tesla Model S sat where my old Volvo should have been. And next to it, a Mercedes SUV with vanity plates that read MedTech 1. I walked up to the door and rang the bell. My own doorbell. Nathan Pierce answered. 59 years old, tanned and fit in a way I remembered him never being. He was wearing a MedTech polo shirt and expensive jeans. When he saw me, his face went through a series of expressions. Shock, fear, confusion, and finally, a forced smile. "Thomas, my God, we weren't expecting you. Why didn't you call?" "This is my house, Nathan. I don't need to call." He glanced back over his shoulder, then stepped outside, pulling the door shut behind him. "Listen, Tom, there's a lot to explain. You've been gone a long time. Things changed. Where's Amanda?" "She's inside, but maybe we should talk first. Just you and me. There's been some administrative changes at the company. I wanted to discuss them with you when you were stronger." "Get out of my house." Nathan's expression hardened. Actually, Tom, this isn't your house anymore. Amanda sold it to me in 2017. We have a fully executed deed transfer. And as for the company, well, you signed over your shares when you decided to stay in London permanently. I never decided to stay permanently. I was sick. I have documents that say otherwise. Witnessed, notarized, completely legal. He crossed his arms. Look, I know this is a shock, but you were gone for 10 years. 10 years, Tom. Someone had to step up. Someone had to run things. I kept the company alive. I grew it. You should be thanking me. The front door opened. Amanda stood there, my wife of 32 years, looking at me like I was a stranger who'd shown up selling magazines. She'd changed her hair, lost weight, and was wearing clothes that cost more than we used to spend on furniture. Thomas, she said flatly, you should have called. This is my house, Amanda. Our house. She shook her head. Not for 3 years. I sold it to Nathan. We filed for divorce in absentia in 2016. You were served at the London address. You never contested it. I never received any papers. That's not my problem. The divorce is final. You signed the settlement agreement. I felt Claire's hand on my arm, steadying me. I never signed anything, I said, my voice low and controlled. And we're going to prove that. Nathan laughed. Good luck with that. I have a team of lawyers who say otherwise. And in case you're thinking about making trouble, you should know that you currently own 0% of MedTech Solutions. You have no authority, no access, no claim to anything. The board voted to remove you for cause in 2015, citing abandonment and breach of fiduciary duty. I was taking care of my dying sister, and I was taking care of your dying company. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Here's what's going to happen, Tom. You're going to walk away. You're going to accept that life moved on without you. You had a good run, but it's over. If you fight this, I will bury you in legal fees. I will drag Claire's name through the mud. I will make sure everyone knows you abandoned your family and your company for 10 years. Do you understand me? I looked at this man I'd known since I was 18 years old. We'd been roommates at Oregon State. We'd started MedTech in his garage in 1998 with a $10,000 loan from my father. We'd been best men at each other's weddings. We'd celebrated every success together. And he'd stolen everything the moment I was weak enough to steal from. I understand perfectly, I said. Then I turned to Claire. Let's go. As we walked back to her car, Nathan called out, And Tom, don't bother trying to access any accounts. Everything's been frozen, pending resolution of your tax issues. Tax issues? I stopped. Yeah. Turns out, you've got some problems with the IRS. But don't worry. I'm sure you can sort it out. Eventually. In the car, Claire was shaking. Dad, what are we going to do? I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found the name I needed. Patricia Rodriguez. She'd been our corporate attorney in the early days, before Nathan insisted we switch to some big firm downtown. Patricia had gone on to specialize in white-collar fraud and business litigation. I'd kept in touch with her over the years, mostly Christmas cards and the occasional coffee when I was in town. Patricia, this is Thomas Anderson. I need your help, and I need you to be very discreet. 3 hours later, I was sitting in Patricia's office, in a building near Pioneer Square, laying out everything I knew. She listened without interrupting, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, she sat back in her chair. Okay, first question. Do you have any original documents? Corporate formation papers? Partnership agreements? Anything with your actual signature? I have copies in a safe deposit box at Wells Fargo on Burnside. I opened it in 2000 and never closed it. I kept all the original incorporation documents there, along with my will and some other personal papers. Good. That's very good. Because if Nathan forged your signature on those transfer documents, we can prove it with a handwriting analysis. Patricia made a note. Second question. Your medical records. You were in London for 10 years. Do you have documentation proving you were seriously ill during the period when you allegedly signed over everything? I have 10 years of medical records from 3 different hospitals. Heart surgery, medications, the works. I nearly died twice. Excellent. That establishes you were under duress, assuming you actually signed anything, which I doubt. She tapped her pen on the desk. Third question, and this is the big one. Do you have any assets Nathan doesn't know about? Any money, property, anything you can use to fund this fight? Because he's right about one thing, this is going to be expensive. I nodded. My father passed away in 2018. He left me his farm in Tillamook County, about 200 acres and the house. It's worth maybe $1.5 million. Amanda doesn't know about it because it happened after the alleged divorce. Patricia smiled. Then we have a war chest. Here's what we're going to do. Tomorrow morning, you and I are going to that safe deposit box. We're going to document everything inside. Then we're going to pull the corporate records for MedTech Solutions and see exactly what Nathan filed with the state. I want to see every document he claims has your signature. And then we're going to find out who else he hurt. Because men like Nathan Pierce, they don't just steal from one person, they leave a trail. She was right. Over the next 3 weeks, Patricia and I worked 12-hour days. We started with the safe deposit box. The original partnership agreement, signed by both Nathan and me in 1998, was crystal clear. 50-50 ownership, equal say in all major decisions, and a clause stating that neither partner could be removed without cause demonstrated to both parties and approved by a majority of the board. Then we pulled the corporate records. In 2015, someone had filed amended articles of incorporation listing Nathan as sole owner. The signature on those documents looked nothing like mine. Patricia immediately hired a forensic handwriting expert, a retired FBI analyst named Dr. Sarah Chen, who testified in dozens of fraud cases. Dr. Chen's report was damning. These signatures were not written by the same person who signed the original 1,998 documents. The pressure points are wrong, the letter formations are inconsistent, and there are indicators of simulation, someone trying to copy another person's handwriting. But we needed more. We needed to understand how deep the fraud went. That's when Claire remembered something. Dad, there was an accountant, Deborah Kim. She worked at MedTech for 15 years. Nathan fired her about 6 months ago. She was really upset about it, said something about not wanting to lie anymore. We found Deborah working at a small accounting firm in Lake Oswego. When Patricia called her, asking if she'd be willing to talk about her time at MedTech, there was a long silence on the phone. Finally, Deborah said, "I've been waiting for someone to ask." We met her at a coffee shop in West Lynn the next morning. She brought 3 boxes of documents. "I made copies of everything," Deborah said, her hands trembling as she opened the first box. "I knew what Nathan was doing was wrong, but he told me if I said anything, he'd make sure I never worked as an accountant again. He said he'd report me to the board for fraud, claim I was the one cooking the books." "What books?" Patricia asked. Deborah pulled out a spreadsheet. "Nathan has been systematically looting MedTech for years. Ghost employees on the payroll, his girlfriend from before Amanda, his brother, his ex-wife. They all get paychecks, but they don't actually work there. He's been billing personal expenses to the company. His vacations, his cars, his clothes. He even billed his son's college tuition." "How much are we talking about?" I asked. "Conservatively, over the past 10 years, probably $8 to $10 million. She pulled out another folder. "And that's not including what he did with the Seattle expansion." "What Seattle expansion?" "In 2017, MedTech was supposed to open a distribution center in Seattle. The board approved a $12 million investment. Nathan set up a shell company, awarded the construction contract to that company, and then pocketed most of the money. The Seattle center was never built." Patricia was writing furiously. "Do you have proof of this?" "I have invoices, payment records, corporate filings." Nathan wasn't even careful. He used his college roommate's name for the shell company, Stephen Wallace. Stephen doesn't even know. Nathan forged his signature too. "How do you know Stephen doesn't know?" I asked. "Because I called him. After Nathan fired me, I called Stephen and asked if he knew he was the registered agent for a construction company in Washington. He had no idea what I was talking about." Deborah pulled out another document. I recorded the call. "I've been documenting everything, just in case." Over the next hour, Deborah walked us through a decade of fraud. Nathan had been stealing from the company before I even left for London, but my absence had given him the freedom to escalate. He'd forced employees to sign NDAs, threatened anyone who questioned him, and created a culture of fear. "What about Amanda?" I asked. "What was her role in this?" Deborah's expression darkened. Amanda knew everything. She helped Nathan forge her signatures. I saw them practicing, trying to get her handwriting right. This was about 6 months after you left. They were in his office late one night, and I came back because I'd forgotten my phone. I heard them laughing about it. Nathan said something like, "Tom always was too trusting." And Amanda said, "Well, that's what makes this so easy." I felt something cold settle in my chest. It wasn't anger. It was clarity. "There's more," Deborah said quietly. "Your daughter." When she started asking questions about the financials, Nathan didn't just fire her. He blacklisted her. He called every major medical equipment company in the Pacific Northwest and told them Claire had been terminated for embezzlement. He destroyed her reputation. That's why she's working for a small company in Beaverton. No one else would hire her. I looked at Patricia. "What do we need to do?" "We need to go to the FBI," she said. "This isn't just civil fraud. This is wire fraud, mail fraud, forgery, embezzlement. These are federal crimes. And if he's been doing this with MedTech, I bet my license has got his hands in other pots too." Patricia was right again. The FBI's white-collar crime division in Portland took our evidence seriously. Special Agent Marcus Torres led the investigation. Within 2 weeks, they'd executed search warrants on Nathan's home, his office, and MedTech's corporate headquarters. What they found was worse than we'd imagined. Nathan hadn't just been stealing from MedTech. He'd been running a separate scheme selling counterfeit medical equipment, knockoff defibrillators, fake surgical instruments, equipment that hadn't passed FDA inspection. He'd been selling this stuff to rural hospitals and clinics across Oregon, Washington, and Idaho, undercutting legitimate suppliers and pocketing the difference. People had been hurt. Not killed, thank God, but hurt. A defibrillator that failed during a cardiac event. Surgical instruments that broke mid-procedure. The FDA got involved. So did the Department of Health and Human Services. Agent Torres called me into his office 6 weeks after the investigation started. "Mr. Anderson, I want you to know that this is one of the most extensive fraud cases I've handled in 20 years. Nathan Pierce has been running criminal enterprises across 3 states. We've identified at least 40 victims, including your company, your daughter, and multiple healthcare facilities. What happens now?" I asked. "We're preparing to make arrests. Nathan, Amanda, and 3 other co-conspirators. Your ex-wife actively participated in the forgery and fraud, so she's being charged as a co-defendant. We're also going after Nathan's attorney, Gordon Shaw, who helped draft the fraudulent documents knowing they contained forged signatures. How long before trial? These things take time, but with the evidence we have, I'd be surprised if Nathan doesn't take a plea deal. His lawyer has already reached out about cooperating." I shook my head. "He won't cooperate. Nathan never admits he's wrong. Even when we were kids, he doubled down on everything." Agent Torres smiled. "Then he's going to learn what a federal jury thinks about people who forge medical equipment certifications." The arrests happened on a Tuesday morning in October. I wasn't there, but Claire showed me the news coverage. Nathan being led out of the MedTech headquarters in handcuffs. Amanda being arrested at a yoga class in Lake Oswego. Gordon Shaw detained at his law office downtown. The media loved it. Local business owner turns out to be running criminal enterprise. It was all over the news for weeks, but I didn't feel victorious. I felt tired. Patricia had filed a civil lawsuit simultaneously with the FBI investigation. We sued Nathan personally, MedTech Solutions, to recover the company, Amanda to overturn the fraudulent divorce and property transfer, and Gordon Shaw for legal malpractice. We also filed complaints with the Oregon State Bar against Shaw and demanded his disbarment. The MedTech board, once they understood what had happened, voted unanimously to reinstate me as CEO and remove Nathan. Several board members resigned in shame for not seeing the fraud earlier. Claire was rehired as VP of Operations. Her first act was to send a company-wide email explaining what had happened and apologizing to every employee Nathan had intimidated or threatened. The trial took place 14 months after I'd stepped off that plane in Portland. Nathan refused to take a plea deal, insisting he'd done nothing wrong. His defense was that I had signed the documents, that I'd abandoned the company, and that he'd simply been doing what was necessary to keep the business afloat. The jury didn't buy it. They deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts: wire fraud, mail fraud, forgery, embezzlement, trafficking in counterfeit goods, and conspiracy. 23 counts in total. Amanda took a plea deal. She testified against Nathan in exchange for a reduced sentence. She admitted to helping forge my signatures, to lying about the divorce, to participating in the scheme to steal the company. In her testimony, she claimed Nathan had manipulated her, that she'd been scared of him. The prosecutor showed the jury the recordings Deborah had made. Amanda laughing about how easy it was to fool everyone. Amanda bragging about the house, the cars, the lifestyle Nathan's theft had funded. The jury recommended the maximum sentence for her, too. Nathan got 15 years in federal prison, 12 for the fraud and embezzlement, plus an additional 3 for the counterfeit medical equipment scheme. He was also ordered to pay $92 million in restitution, triple damages for the fraud, plus penalties. Amanda got 7 years. She'd cooperated, but not enough to avoid prison time. Gordon Shaw was disbarred and got 3 years for his role in the forgery scheme. The other co-conspirators, including the people Nathan had set up as ghost employees, got various sentences ranging from probation to 5 years. But the criminal sentences weren't enough for me. The civil trial was where I got justice. The court invalidated the fraudulent divorce. Amanda had to return the proceeds from the sale of our house, nearly $800,000, plus interest. The deed transfer was voided. My house was mine again. The court also invalidated all the corporate documents Nathan had filed. MedTech Solutions was returned to our original 50-50 partnership structure, except Nathan's shares were now mine as compensation for his fraud. I owned 100% of a $75 million company, but I also won something else, something the audience from my earlier life would have appreciated. The court awarded me $8.6 million in compensatory damages for the years Nathan had stolen from me. Lost wages, lost opportunities, emotional distress, the cost of my medical care that I'd had to pay for myself while Nathan was living in my house and driving my cars. And then the judge added something I hadn't expected. "Mr. Anderson," Judge Wilson said, looking over her glasses at me, "I've reviewed the evidence in this case extensively. What was done to you wasn't just fraud. It was a betrayal of the deepest kind. You trusted this man with your life's work, and he repaid that trust by stealing everything the moment you were at your most vulnerable. The court finds that punitive damages are warranted to send a message that this kind of conduct will not be tolerated." She awarded me an additional $12 million in punitive damages. $20 million total. More money than I'd ever expected to see. Nathan's assets were seized. His cars, his house, his investment accounts, everything. It wasn't enough to cover the full judgment, but it was a start. He'd be paying me for the rest of his life, assuming he lived long enough. Amanda lost everything, too. Her share of the fraudulent divorce settlement, her car, her jewelry. She declared bankruptcy, but the court ruled that debts incurred through fraud weren't dischargeable. She'd be paying for the rest of her life, too. I stood outside the courthouse after the verdict, Patricia by my side, Claire holding my hand. "What are you going to do now?" Patricia asked. I thought about it. I was 62 years old. I'd spent 10 years fighting to survive illness. I'd spent the last year and a half fighting to reclaim my life. I was tired of fighting. "I'm going to make sure this never happens to anyone else," I said. 3 months later, I established the Anderson Foundation for Victims of Business Fraud. I seeded it with $5 million of the judgment money. The foundation provides legal assistance to people who've been defrauded by business partners, employers, or family members. We help them hire attorneys, cover investigation costs, and navigate the complex world of fraud litigation. Deborah Kim became the foundation's director. She'd lost her career because she'd stood up to Nathan. Now she was using her skills to help others do the same. I also donated $2 million to the American Heart Association for cardiac care research. The doctors in London had saved my life. I wanted to make sure others had that same chance. As for MedTech Solutions, I brought in a new management team. I stayed on as chairman of the board, but I hired a CEO who actually knew how to run a medical equipment distribution company in the modern age. We implemented strict financial controls, hired an independent auditing firm, and established a whistleblower program so employees could report concerns without fear of retaliation. Claire thrived as VP of Operations. She'd learned from the hardest lesson possible, that trust without oversight is dangerous. She rebuilt the company culture, focusing on transparency and accountability. The Seattle distribution center that Nathan had embezzled money for, we actually built it. It opened in 2025, creating 60 jobs and serving hospitals across the Pacific Northwest. And my relationship with Claire? We talk every day now. She brings my grandson by the house twice a week. He's 3 years old, and he loves the garden I've planted in the backyard. I'm teaching him about tomatoes and how things grow when you take care of them. I never spoke to Amanda again. She wrote me letters from prison, apologizing, asking for forgiveness. I didn't respond. Some betrayals are too deep for forgiveness, and I made peace with that. Nathan tried to appeal his conviction. It was denied. He'll be eligible for parole in 2035 when he's 74 years old. By then, I'll be 82, assuming I'm still alive. I think about him sometimes, not with anger, but with something like pity. He had everything, a successful business, a partnership built on years of friendship, a good life, and he threw it all away because he wanted more. He wanted what was mine, and he was willing to destroy everyone around him to take it. I think about that morning at the airport, stepping off the plane into the Portland rain. I'd been so scared. Scared of dying, scared of being alone, scared of what came next. But fear is funny. Sometimes it clarifies things. Sometimes it shows you what matters. My daughter matters. My grandson matters. The employees at MedTech who trusted me to do right by them matter. The patients in hospitals who need equipment they can trust, they matter. Nathan and Amanda, they were obstacles, and obstacles can be moved. I'm writing this now from my office at MedTech, the same building Nathan tried to steal, the same company I built from nothing. There's a picture on my desk of Claire and my grandson. Next to it is a picture from 1998. Me and Nathan at our first office. 2 kids with a dream. I keep that picture as a reminder, not of friendship lost, but of the difference between building something and stealing it. Building takes time, patience, and trust. Stealing is fast and easy, but the thing about stealing is this. Eventually, you have to give it back. And when you do, you lose everything. I lost 10 years to illness and distance. But Nathan, he lost his freedom, his reputation, his future. He lost the respect of everyone who ever knew him. He lost the ability to look at himself in the mirror and see anything but a thief. That's a different kind of life sentence. As for me, I'm still here, still building, still growing things, still showing up every day to do the work. The past was painful. The betrayal was real. But standing here now, watching the sun set over Portland, my company thriving and my family whole again, I know something Nathan never understood. You can't steal what matters most. Love, respect, integrity, those things can only be earned. And once you lose them, all the money in the world can't buy them back. I learned that the hard way. Nathan did too. The difference is, I get to keep building. He just gets to sit in a cell and think about what he destroyed. Justice isn't always pretty. But sometimes, it's exactly what's needed. And sometimes, just sometimes, the good guys actually win.